Man, now I see Facebook. Oh man, we are live. We are for sure live now, man. Oh, I'm digging this now. We're having some technical issues, some technical difficulties, but we are here and we are doing this thing. I am Kirk M. Samuels, the Intimacy Incubator. We are on Facebook Live, and I'm telling you, I got a new flavor of cream in my coffee this morning. I got I got a great outlook here this morning. Part of my personal mission statement is to co-create a world of intimacy and connection where we can not only connect with ourselves, connect with our lives, connect with our families, connect with those that are closest to us, and that we can be the best that we can be. And I'm telling you, I got one of the best that there are out there on the line for you today. I got a flat out celebrity. I mean, let me tell you, this guy right here makes Chuck Norris look like Pee Wee Herman. I'm just going to keep it real, man. This guy right here is a bad mama jama. Where I'm from, I mean, I'm telling you, this guy right here, man, you don't mess with this guy. I want to introduce you all. I don't even have to introduce you. A lot of you already know this guy flat out. When I say I know this guy, people, I get respect. I mean, I get a better seat in the restaurant when I say I know this guy. So let me let me flat out introduce you all this morning to my man, Chris Natzke. How you doing, sir?
Oh man, I'm doing great, Kirk. I just hope I live up to that introduction.
Come on, man. You're the real deal, man. You are the truth, man. I mean, you are flat out the truth. You are every answer on Jeopardy, man. I appreciate you, man. And so I just wanted to get on here this morning, and this kind of platform, this outlet, is where I like to just kind of connect, kind of guy to guy. Today we're gonna have almost kind of a masculine conversation that obviously guys and even women are allowed to listen in on, just to talk about the some of the guy experience. But before we get to all of that, I want to talk about you, man. Where are you from, man? I mean, where'd you grow up? What hood you represent?
You know what? I grew up in southeastern Wisconsin in a little town called Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. So it's about 30 miles west of Milwaukee. The claim to fame, two things. It's the only city in the nation with 5 O's in its name, Oconomowoc. So I got that going for me. And the other thing is, it is the premier city in the 1930s where they screened The Wizard of Oz for the first time. So that's my claim to fame. There you go. That's
wow. I was actually going to ask you how to spell that, man. I went to public school, man. I mean, that's like the answer to a spelling bee right there, man.
It is. It gets me a lot of points in trivia. That's for sure.
Wow. The Wizard of Oz town. Now, I mean, that's so how in the world did you end up from there to Colorado? What was that journey like?
It's a real interesting story. I was real blessed. I got a football scholarship, went to Northwestern University and played there for 4 years. And then after I got done with school, I got recruited by Procter & Gamble. And was with them for 10 years after I graduated, and I moved all around the country. So started in Chicago, went to Southern California, went to Cincinnati, and got out here. And was with them for 10 years, really blessed part of my life. And yeah, that's how I got to Denver in the beginning of '93, and haven't left. Love it out here.
Wow. Hey, I did go to public school, but I'm pretty observant, man. And right now I'm observing something over your shoulder there. It says black belt leadership. What is that all about?
How about that? Yeah, well, that's
what we call that product placement.
That's right. Look at that right there. Yeah. So this is my book that I wrote, published 5 years ago, Black Belt Leadership. The subtitle is 7 Keys to Creating a Life of Purpose by Discovering Your Inner Champion. So in the work that I do, I combine my martial arts expertise with my life coaching skills, et cetera. So it's basically a culmination of those, being a 7th degree black belt, 7 qualities of black belt leadership. And yeah, that's what it's all about.
Okay, man, you just like tripped right over there. Wait a minute. 7th degree black belt. Come on, man. How'd that happen?
Boy, I again, blessed again in my life. When I was a young kid, there was a TV show called Kung Fu. Some of our older audience members might remember that show. And as a 10-year-old, I was just enamored with that TV show. And there happened to be a local, we didn't even call it Taekwondo at the time. At the time, they called it Korean Karate. And in my little rec center, they happened to have a program. And I begged my mom to let me go. And the first time I went there, I felt like I came home. And 45 years later, I'm still kicking. So
You are literally still kicking.
that's right.
You probably got a whole lot of names because you kick butt and take names when you do it.
That's right.
And so when you talk about incorporating the martial arts aspect into leadership, and, I mean specifically, you know, your the title of the book, Black Belt Leadership. Are you saying that there are overlaps between kind of concepts that you've learned and concepts that you teach, along with the whole idea of leadership?
Absolutely. You know, and I think that most people have an idea that, you know, black belt acts as a pretty powerful metaphor. What it probably, what people think about is they think about dedication, expertise, etc., focus, concentration, all those things. And what I argue is that all of us have that inner champion inside of us already. It's just, how do we unlock that? I happen to be blessed where I found martial arts at a very young age, and it worked in that way. But you don't have to be kicking and punching for 20 years to find that. It can be used as a vehicle, but we all have that. We all have, I believe, an innate gift inside of us that needs to be unleashed so that we can serve most profoundly in the world. And that's really the essence of my work.
Wow. I think that might be the essence of my work too.
It is.
You know, the whole idea of, I mean, releasing that gift. And, you know, one of my first interactions with you was, or personal interactions with you, being in your audience, if you will, was that actually we have another one coming up, you know, Gary Barnes boot camp here next week. And you, I mean, which is kind of an entrepreneurial, you know, platform, if you will. And I mean, flat out phenomenal. Actually, I'm going to do a webinar with Gary here in this next week. But anyhow, and so the whole idea of what we walk through there, man, you have this gift of, particularly in that platform, of walking people, like a whole audience, through this process of understanding kind of that power that you have within. I'm just going to summarize my experience anyway, kind of the power that I had within, in terms of getting through something that was a challenge, getting through something that was a barrier, that was an obstacle. And specifically, you know, you walked us through a board breaking exercise, and there was a lot of things involved with that. It wasn't just, you know, hey, come up here and do this. There was a lot of things kind of as part of that process, and the way you do that is phenomenal, man. You are a savant in doing that. But I want to unpack a little bit the whole notion of breaking through something. I mean, and that being a metaphor, clearly, but breaking through something in one's life, and particularly in a guy's life. You know, we have these things, these barriers, these experiences. We have these maybe insecurities. We have these wounds. We have a lot of things that can get in the way of where we are versus where we want to be. And whether it's, you know, in your personal life, in your professional life, in your financial life, in your physical life, whatever that is. And so when we experience that, and kind of this goes back to the way you, in my mind, I'm picturing the way you worked that board breaking experience. What are some of the things that you find in your work that actually keep us from kind of getting from the side that we're on to the other side where we want to be?
Yeah, boy, that's a great question. And, you know, I guess I think back to the board breaking experience and what I try to have people experience in that seminar. And I basically focus on three things. And I think this is really fundamental to guys in particular. And, you know, when I talk about these things, I want everyone to know I deal with these all the time too. You know, just because I teach them doesn't mean I never deal with any of those challenges. I think we all do. I think the more that we get into it, the more there is to unearth, right? And the more there is to break through, if you will. But when I do the board breaking experience, I basically focus on three things. I focus first on having a solid foundation. And I think that sometimes as men, we're so busy, we're pulled in different directions. And there's a lot of expectations that we put upon ourselves, and that we need to have a solid foundation, whatever those habits are that get us through, right? And that's what I talk about in the seminar. We liken it to a martial art stance, right? But we need to be solid in our practices. You know, where are we at spiritually? Where are we at in our relations? Where are we at physically? Where are we at in our businesses? So that's one part. The second part, though, I think is most applicable to what you're talking about. We talk about the power of voice and what are the things that we're telling ourselves on a constant basis. I mean, I've heard different stats, but the majority of the things that we tell ourselves are negative, right? And it's based off of this conditioning that we've had through our entire life, things that people have said to us, but more importantly, the things we started to believe about ourselves. So it's about changing that paradigm. And then it's about having the courage to move through an obstacle. I mean, and none of us, one of my instructors is an undefeated world kickboxing champion, right? His name is Bill Superfoot Wallace. He's one of my instructors and a dear friend. And he shared with me one time, he's an undefeated world champion. And he told me every time he stepped into the ring, he was scared. And I said, wow, if that's what he's feeling, because so many of us, we feel the fear and then we pull back, either fear of failure, fear of success, fear of looking bad, whatever. But man, that can be a fuel for us. When you feel that jitteriness, et cetera, what if you transform that, say, rather than being scared, I must be excited, man, I got to go. I got to let it rip. And that changes everything.
Wow. Let it go, let it rip. You know what I think about? I think about your Kiev. See,
Yes,
you
right.
didn't think I was paying attention all the years.
You were.
I've been paying attention, dude. I've been paying attention, man. Can you, I just threw in something that a lot of people may not understand. Can you unpack that whole notion of that Kiev?
Yeah, so within the martial arts, there is, and you've seen martial artists do it, karate people, taekwondo people, etc. There is a yell that we do, right? In fact, anytime I speak and I'll say, when you see a martial artist kick or punch, and the whole audience will go, "Hurrah!" Right? So everybody kind of knows that, but there is a very distinct reasons for that, and what it also means. So the word that you just used, Kirk, is Korean, and it's kiap. And ki is spirit and energy, and hop is yell. So it's a spirit yell. It's not just not air going through. It's actually your essence, your power coming through in your voice. And that's what that. And so think about if you live life that way. If you actually spoke your truth and you did it from that perspective, that's where your power is, man. That's where your power is.
Dude, I mean, man, I'm about ready to find me a brick wall and run through that bad boy right now, because I'm thinking that same exact thing, man, what if we woke up in the morning with a key up? What if we walked out of the door with a key? What if we entered into a room, into a space with that spirit, that essence, that whatever you have on the inside? And what if we introduce that to the world every day? And what if we as men kind of lived with that, where it's not something that is a danger to anyone around us. It's the spirit, kind of the essence of who we are. And, I noticed that last weekend, matter of fact, I was kind of on this panel discussion about making of a man. And one of the things that kind of came up in that was a guy that had a whole lot of negative experiences in his life. And he was kind of relating that to trying to connect with his son. And he was seeing his connection with his son and all of the things that he wasn't, and all of the things that he has failed in, and his inabilities to, because of his past, and all of those kinds of things. And I found myself kind of leaning in and just telling him, man, what if your son just wants you to be present? What if he just wants you to show up in who you are, and not who you have been in your mistakes, but the fact that you show up in his life with just the desire to be there, and the desire to show up and to connect and to put your arm around him, whether to hang with him and all that kind of stuff. What if you just show up in your life, in his life, with your presence and in your spirit, and live that and breathe that? And I guess now I'm realizing that I was basically encouraging him to show up with his key up in his fatherhood, show up in that voice and that sort of thing. And I almost wonder, especially as men, if we showed up with that, what kind of a power or presence would we project to the world?
I'll tell you what, Kirk, I could not agree with you more. And in fact, as you were speaking, it was coming to me. I think as men, sometimes we think about this key up, this energy, this moving through obstacles, whatever. We put it more into our careers, right? I have the courage to go make it happen. I'm gonna bust through the barriers at work, et cetera, et cetera. But what about the times in our lives when we have an opportunity to break through our fear of being intimate with our children and with our That's where the real power is. Or what about, having the courage to say how we really feel about things? I mean, that's where I think the real opportunity lies for men, because we created this powerful shell, But inside, we're those little boys sometimes, and the greatest courage is being able to speak your truth. And what about putting your arm around your son or your daughter and say, hey, I really love you, I appreciate you, or looking in the eyes of your spouse and doing this, or girlfriend or boyfriend do the same thing. That's where the power is.
Wow. And this is, we didn't even plan on this being the core of the conversation, but that is, I mean, that's phenomenal, man. If we showed up in that way, if we showed up in life, if we showed up specifically in our relationships that way, where, we just kind of showed up with the presence, we showed up with the ability to show up. And I think a lot of times the people around us, the main thing they want is for us to just show up. To just show up in our presence, show up in our essence of who we are, but just show up, as opposed to just existing or just kind of being on the couch or being off doing this thing and being off doing that thing. What if we just showed up in terms of our culture? I mean, maybe masculinity would kind of have a better spin these days, as opposed to the next guy on the next documentary that was that was really twisted, or that actually hurt and abused women or kids or anything like that. And, the next harasser, the next abuser, the next whatever it was. What if we as an essence, as a core, as a population of men, showed up specifically in the areas of our relationships with just the idea of, I'm going to be present, I'm going to be here with whatever it is that I have, forgetting everything I don't have, but showing up with what I do have. And that could be powerful.
And in fact, it's making me think, there might be men out there listening thinking it has to be this huge, grandiose thing. It just has to be the small things done consistently over time. In fact, I literally just wrote a blog yesterday. In fact, it's going out this morning, and it was entitled, Small Habits Don't Add Up, They Compound.
Mm-hmm.
Small habits don't add up, they compound. So it doesn't have to be this huge, grandiose thing. But what about if it's just connecting once a day? And just doing that over time. In fact, what's interesting is if you just do a 1% increase in your performance, by the end of the year, you're going to be 37 times greater than when you started, right?
Wow.
And if you do that for 2 years, it's not double that, it's 14,000 times greater. So think about that in your relationships if you just showed up consistently over time. And we have a saying in martial arts is that a black belt is a white belt that never quit. That just comes through consistent effort over time. You don't show up one day and be a black belt, just like you don't show up one day and be a great dad or a great husband. It's something you invest in daily.
Yeah, man, that's, I'm telling you, man, this is, I mean, to me, my brain is just firing all over the place, man. I teach guys kind of a similar concept, or I like to put it in the context of Kaizen, that small change projected out over time, can make all the difference in the world. We are 1% different than a chimp as far as DNA,
That's right.
And so, that 1% that you talked about can be massive when you take that over a period of time. And so, the whole idea of you don't have to change. And even when I kind of teach my formula for guys in terms of getting the freedom that they want, it's just about the small change projected out over time, the daily score that you can keep, and all those kinds of things, man. And so I think that's profound, that for you to put out the fact that it doesn't take massive whatever immediately today, that it can be a gradual process. And
right,
it is.
In martial arts, we call the concept kanai. It's the same thing as Kaizen. It's constant and never-ending improvement.
Yeah.
So just attempting to show up better each day than you did the day before.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful.
Now, since you say that, man, when we started talking here, I said, this is the best day ever, because I'm one day farther from where I used to be, and I'm one day closer to where I'm going to be. I don't expect everything to happen immediately, but at the same time, I have an expectation of that constant journey. Now, when we talk about this 1% change, when we talk about this gradual, kind of journey to whatever the breakthrough is, do you say that there's an actual moment, and again, I'm kind of now visualizing back to the board break experience, where there is a breakthrough through all of the Kiep and the journey and all that kind of stuff? I mean, is there should a guy have an expectation that at some point, whatever that breakthrough in life will happen, and what'll seem like instantaneously?
I don't know. I think it happens differently for different people. My sense is it's not like you have the idea and then boom, you have the breakthrough. My sense is you have the idea, you're inspired to take action, and you do it over a period of time. And it's almost like the rock cutter is hitting, he's chiseling on the rock. And it might be the 1,000th time when boom, it breaks open. But and then they think, wow, I hit it once and it broke open. No, you hit it 1,000 times. So it could happen at 10, it could happen at 1,000, it could happen at 10,000, but it's about that constant movement forward. And I think that sometimes when we're dedicated to positive change in our life, it's when we look back retrospectively and so, wow, I used to be here and now I'm here, and almost snuck up on me because it came just a natural part of who we were.
Wow. Yeah. And again, man, I'm in my mind and my spirit, I'm kind of working through the exercises that I've been through with you. And I noticed, like, even in that exercise, some people don't break that board right away. Like most people, when I've been in the room, most people do kind of, break through, if you will. But then there are some people that it doesn't happen right away. And that's kind of a metaphor for life too, in terms of it doesn't.
I absolutely, when I teach those seminars, and I'll teach them as large of 100, 150 people in a room, there'll always invariably some people that don't break, and I look at that as a gift, because it's a gift for the person. Because now, one of the experiences we had at one of Gary Barnes' boot camps years ago is 50, 60 people were in the audience. Everyone had broken with the exception of one person. Now she's up there all by herself, and she has hit that poor board so many times. And so I'm holding the board for her, and she hits it once, clunk. She hits it twice, clunk. She hits it the third time, crack, she breaks through. She hits it so hard, she falls into me. I have to catch her, right? And I help her back up, and there are tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. And the crowd is now standing on their feet, clapping for her. Well, you don't think she's going to remember that? And how did it impact everyone else? They were inspired. Well, fast forward, I saw her 6 months later, and she had said she had just published her latest book, and there was a chapter in there about the board break, right?
Wow.
So it had an impact on her. And I think about the people, when you hear an inspiring speaker, you don't get inspired by the guy or the gal who talked about how everything went perfectly in their life. You get inspired by the person who had adversity and moved through it. And that's just a common human connection of a story. So yeah, I actually revel when that happens.
Wow.
I think it's a gift when people don't break the first time.
Yeah. So as we begin to wind down here, let me ask you, do you happen to know a couple of guys that I know? Do you know a guy named JB Braden and maybe a guy named Brett Zockman? Do you know these guys at all?
I know them well. Brothers,
wow.
Mother. Yep.
I hear you on that one, man. Those are some good guys. I bring that up because you and I and those two guys are actually partnering up for, we're calling it the UpliftHim Masculine Leadership Initiative. And this is March 2nd, 2019 that we're doing this thing. And so our goal with that, or our intention, is to connect moms or empower moms to connect with their teen sons. And so we're targeting moms and teen sons to just come out for a couple hours, 10 to noon that particular day. And if you're watching this at some point, I'll put the link down in the description here for that. But would you say that it's important for teens to kind of get a lot of these concepts in terms of breaking throughs or the breakthroughs in their life?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I mean, think about this. Think about how many times you've been in life and you've had an experience and you go, man, I wish I would have known that when I was 10 years younger, right? And I think about this too, Kirk. I mean, first of all, I'm just so excited and honored to be part of this. When you and I met about this, I don't know if you recall, but you asked me a question when I was up to, and I said, I'm doing this, that, and the other. But where my real passion is youth. You had this huge grin on your face. You hadn't even told me about the idea yet. And when I think about my own background, I mean, I grew up with my father in the household, but my father was an alcoholic. And so I had to find my male role models in different areas, particularly martial arts. But my mom, to this day, is still my anchor. We have this amazing relationship. And to be able to be in that environment, to give these lessons to young men, and then also help their moms, help them on this path, I think it's just outstanding. And I just am so excited to be part of this project.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm so excited too. So we have you talking about breaking through fear and obstacle, as well as, and also part of that lunch conversation, you had talked about, working with young people in terms of suicide. And so you're going to actually be talking about, suicide awareness and that stuff too. And that's just like your segment. I mean, so that's going to be phenomenal in itself. And then we got JB talking about, speaking with confidence. I mean, he's just a dope mic drop, professional speaker. And then we got Brett talking about, financial literacy. And so we're kind of building, and then I'm talking about healthy sexuality. And so we have these kind of these four areas that are really significant to the life and the future life of teen boys. And so, just the whole idea of breaking those down that day and having moms walk away with some tangible bullet points to connect with their sons with. And that day for the teens that show up, we're actually going to be, and I don't even think we brought this up previously, but we're actually going to be entering every team that shows up that day into a drawing for some Beats headphones and for some Apple AirPods. And so the teens that show up, man, they might walk out with some swag.
That's right.
On top of that, all of the registration fees are actually we're going to hand a check that day directly to an anti-human trafficking organization called Momentum Global, who runs the shift conferences. And so, I mean, it's going to be a win-win, phenomenal thing on March 2nd, man. And I'm so excited that you are, man. If you're there, I'm invincible, man. I'm telling you. If you there, it's like when you walk down the alley and you see a bunch of guys, and it's like, yeah, but I got him with me. My fear is kind of, I'm feeling that much more bold when I got my crew, I got my dogs behind me, man. And so I'm extremely excited about that. So, man, I wanted to thank you for this quick hit this morning, man. It's pretty early in the morning. It's pretty dope of you to kind of join it and contribute your key ep to this webinar. And so, man, I'm extremely excited. If someone is listening to this and they want to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You just go to my website, chrisnatzke.com. So let me spell that. CHRIS, N as in Navy, AT, Z as in zebra.com. And they can just reach out to me and, want to get together. I do coaching. I do keynote speaking. I've got a program right now where I'm helping people design their new year. So if anybody's interested in that, just reach out and we can have a brief conversation and see if I can serve you in any way.
Fantastic. And I'll share that. I'll put your link down in here too, into the comments when we're done, when I circle back to this video, man. And so, man, like I said, I appreciate you, man. I respect you as one of the real deal guys around here, man. And I'm honored to be a part of changing the world with you, for sure. So thank you for your time this morning, Chris. I appreciate you, man. And we will absolutely talk soon.
Sounds good, brother. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Take care.